Hello and welcome to Conscious TV. My name is Renate McNay, and with me in the studio today is Dr. Guy Meadows. Hello, Guy.
Hello.
Guy is a sleep physiologist, and I met him about 6 months ago when I was in a very desperate situation and having not slept properly for 10 years, almost 10 years. And after just one session with him, my life was transformed, and we are talking with him today about insomnia and sleeping disorders.
Yes.
Okay, so my first question is, how come you decided to become a sleep doctor?
I don't think I decided to become a sleep doctor. It's one of those things where the line of work that I was doing I ended up finding sleep, or sleep found me.
Yeah.
Originally, I started off doing sports science, and I was very interested in physiology, human physiology, so how the body works in the extremes of the environment, and how humans, or the understanding about human performance.
Right.
And I left my first degree, and went on to do another one, which was a master's in human applied physiology. And so that was really looking at how the human body is affected by the extremes of the environment. So the effects of heat, the effects of cold, the effects of altitude, aviation, so lack of oxygen, but also the effects of low pressure, such as that found during diving, and really just sort of pushing the body to its limits.
And you were pushing your own body to the
Yes,
limit.
yes. I mean, it was very enjoyable, from the sense that it was a very practical based course. So we got to we pretty much were the guinea pigs.
So you told me you went into the Himalayas and were
That's right.
climbing around the mountains in the world.
Yes, that was more of a sort of a personal interest, and I was matching my personal interest with my sort of academic interest, and so we went to the Himalayas to do walking and climbing expeditions, looking at again performance, and interested in things like acute mountain sickness, but mostly interested in how lack of oxygen affects the brain. And as we were doing all of that, I began to realise that actually I maybe should do something a little bit more clinical, a little bit more relevant. And a friend of mine at the time mentioned that certain people certain people stop breathing at night, and that might be a sort of another avenue to look at, seeing as I was specialising in lack of oxygen. And I met someone from Imperial College who happened to be working in the sleep laboratories there, and was interested in people who suffer from sleep apnea, which is where people stop breathing at night. And we got together and put together a plan to do some research looking at the regulation of brain blood flow, which was becoming my sort of specialist area, and the effects of lack of oxygen on the brain. And we went on, and I did a PhD at Imperial College, working in the sleep research laboratories of Charing Cross Hospital and then the Royal Brompton Hospital, where we were investigating the effects of lack of oxygen or elevated carbon dioxide levels on people's brain blood flow.
And then I think you left
That's
the
right.
NHS and
That's right.
you have your private clinic now.
I decided to leave. I finished, that was in 2004 that I finished my PhD, and I decided to leave and set up my own company. I wanted to do something which was slightly more holistic. I felt that there was another way in which to approach sleep disorders, and what happened then really was sort of shaped where I am today, because suddenly when people got to know the fact that I had some knowledge about sleep, and I was sort of available to talk to, suddenly insomniacs started coming out of the woodwork and finding me.
And there are many of those.
And they are many, yes.
And
And that's after that, that's where I set up the London Insomniac Clinic, and for nearly 5 years now I've been focusing specifically on insomnia and helping people with their insomnia like yourself. So
yes. So is it mainly a women's problem or a man's problem? I know with me it had to do with entering the menopause.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Research would say that 4/5 of the sort of population of the insomnia population are made up of females.
Yeah.
So 1/5 male, and but whether that's actually females suffer more from it, or whether males it's just underreported in males, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I do see I do see more females than males.
Yes.
And the two sort of groups of females who I do see tends to be one sort of where post-menopause,
Yeah.
or post-pregnancy as well.
Yeah.
Obviously that's a sort of a key time where there is something suddenly appears in your life which is disturbing
Yeah, it's a
your
change.
sleep.
I guess it's a change of hormones, and
It's a change of hormones, but also there's suddenly if you imagine the situation where you've slept perfectly all your life, and then suddenly you have a small child in your life who
Yeah.
wants to be fed most of the night.
Yes.
It can be quite a shock to the system.
Yes.
And so a lot of females find that quite challenging to deal with, especially when after a few months their baby starts sleeping through the night, but they don't. And it's
No.
almost like the body clock has learned to stay awake, and
Right.
and that's when the sort of the fear sort of comes in, the sort of the worry about not being able to sleep.
So, are there different forms of insomnia? You know, I, for example, I could easily fall asleep, but I would wake up every night at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and that's it. And some people cannot fall asleep.
Exactly. Yes, there are.
So what's going on in them, or what's the reason for this different forms?
The differences are that there's sleep onset insomnia, so people who can't fall to sleep, sleep maintenance insomnia, so the people who can't maintain good sleep, and then sort of early awakening insomnia, where people are waking up earlier than they wanted to, and then there's just the just not sleeping at all insomnia, so which is sort of a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
What's interesting is just because one person has sort of sleep onset insomnia doesn't mean that that's their type, and that's because of some sort of factor. It's just that's how the body clock has learned to wake them up.
Right.
And I often see many people where people would describe themselves as being in this cycle at the moment, i.e. where they're having difficulty falling asleep, but then a few months later they might be in another cycle whereby they're falling to sleep fine, but they're waking up early now. And so it is interesting, those differences.
Did you ever meet somebody who cannot sleep at all?
Yes,
Really?
the sort of large majority of my clients have gone for long periods without sleeping. And what is important to say is that everyone can sleep, and that the body does want us to sleep, and it will make you sleep eventually. So sort of some people I've had have gone for 4, 5, 6, 7 nights without sleep. The body has mechanisms, the brain has mechanisms to eventually switch you off and to protect itself, and so get some sleep. So.